Hello, everyone, and welcome to this month's episode of the Cycle Podcast. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to our guest, Rebecca, for joining us today. How are you doing today, Rebecca?
I'm doing great today. Friday is always a good day, but this Friday is especially good because I'm super excited to be here.
Well, we're really excited that you're here and that you're willing to share your story with us and look forward to getting to know you better. But before we jump into all of that, why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Rebecca. I am 32 years old. I'm going to be 33 in May, and I'm married. I've been married to my husband coming up actually on 10 years. Next year will be 10 years that we've been married, and I have one child. I have a 5-year-old. His name is Elliot. He is the cutest little redhead you've ever seen. And I live in Virginia. And yeah, I work full time. I'm a mom full time. I love to spend time with my family, my friends, and I'm just really excited about having my opportunity to share my story with everyone about my endometriosis journey and everything that I've experienced that I know tons of people have gone through as well.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And we're so grateful that you're here and look forward to diving in. And so, with that being said, when did you start to realize something might be like off?
So I first got my period when I was in 7th grade, and for the first couple of years it was fine, but right around the age of like 16, I started to notice that, wow, I'm having really heavy bleeding, I'm having a lot of pain, and nothing seems to be offering me any type of relief. And I'll never forget one of the first conversations that I had with my primary care doctor is, I had gone in for just like my yearly physical for, I think I was getting it for the upcoming school year because I played sports. And she was just asking me, how have things been? And I had mentioned to her, well, I've noticed actually the past couple of months, every time that I'm having my period, I'm having like really bad pain, and it seems like my periods are lasting like really long. Some of them were lasting like almost 2 weeks, and they're really heavy. It doesn't seem like it really starts trickling off until like the day before it stops. And I was just wanting to know, is that normal? And I remember that she had said, well, it might not seem normal, but it is. Periods are sometimes bad and everyone experiences them differently, and just recommended that maybe I try taking extra Midol when it's my time of the month. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. And
Right.
so I did that for a couple of years. And then right around the time, probably about 2 years later, when I was 18, really started having the pain outside of my periods. I was having cramping, I was having painful intercourse, I was having all of these things that I knew there's something going on. This is not normal, no matter what doctors are telling me, that this can't be normal. And really, my primary care doctor didn't really start taking me seriously until I started bleeding outside of my menstrual cycle, because I was taking just regular birth control where, you only should be having your period during this time, but
Right.
I was having it so sporadically, and they had gone through a bunch of testing and they thought it might be my thyroid, which I did have irregular numbers with my thyroid, so they did put me on thyroid medication to help with my hypoactive thyroidism. And for a little bit that helped, but pretty much when she had exhausted all of her efforts, she said, I think at this point we need to refer you to an OBGYN because I'm just primary care. I can't really offer you too much more. So then once I got referred to an OBGYN, they kind of took it a little bit more seriously. She was trying me on a couple of different birth controls. Honestly, at this point, I've lost track of how many birth controls I was on finally, my OB at that time, she said, I think maybe we might want to look into some other things that could be going on. So we're going to do an exploratory laparoscopic procedure. And sure enough, when they went in, I had 3 lesions of endometriosis on my ovaries and on my cervix. And so she was able to burn that off. After the surgery was over, she told me, you do have endometriosis, and she explained to me what the condition was and all of the symptoms, which I had been experiencing for a couple of years. So I was finally glad to feel like I was getting closer to figuring out how to deal with it, because at that time, when I was 19, it was actually right around the time that my husband and I started dating. Because I remember it was a very new couple. And I was like, I don't know how to explain to this guy that I just started dating that I'm in bed because I can't get up because I'm bleeding so heavily and I'm having all this pain, and trying to navigate that at 19 is hard enough, but then to also try and explain it to a new boyfriend was even harder. I'm lucky that my husband is a little bit older than me, so he was kind of like, oh, we can talk about it, it's fine. Prior to him, I had only ever had my high school boyfriend, and that was kind of like, oh, we don't talk about that. So
Right.
talking to him, he actually was very helpful with me during my journey of really getting diagnosed with endometriosis and advocating for myself, because he was open to us talking about it and being honest with each other about it. And he actually was with me when the doctor came in to tell me about that she found endometriosis, because he had come to the hospital with me. And so he really, I say it all the time, I'm like, he's gone through this journey with me, because he's been there from diagnoses jump to 2026 when I had to get a hysterectomy. So he really has been through every journey of this diagnosis and disease that I have. But it really all started at 16, and it took until I was almost 33 to unfortunately not get a cure for it, since there isn't one, but to get, I guess, at this juncture in the research of what the solution is eventually is just to get a hysterectomy. Not to get rid of it, because it's never going to go away, but he really has been there every step of the way. So I know that for him, this has been just as important for him as it was for me. I can't even imagine seeing someone that I love being in that much pain, and it becoming at one point, it was more often that I was bleeding and in pain than I wasn't. So it really has been a long journey for not just myself, but my friends and family. And I'm very fortunate that I do have a partner that is so supportive and so helpful and understanding of the situation. Because I know that when it first started, in high school, it wasn't something that I don't think anybody's ever prepared to deal with, let alone a 16-year-old girl. It's not something that is ever talked about enough, but especially not at that age. And, I am thankful that I am raising my son in the generation that it can be talked about, that you don't need to be embarrassed about it. It doesn't need to be something that oh, let's be quiet about it, clutch your pearls while you're talking about it. It doesn't need to be that way. It's human. We're human. Everyone goes through things that aren't always easy to talk about, but that doesn't mean you don't talk about them. And I am very thankful that we are so big about that with my son and with anyone that we speak to now. It's oh, we don't need to be quiet about it. It's a real thing. Women going through what women with endometriosis have to go through, even there's no way to even explain it sometimes, how painful it can be. But on top of that, to also have it take so long to be taken seriously, I think that's been the hardest thing for me. Sometimes that's been worse than the pain, is it's just, we're not being dramatic. We're not making things up, and it's not who wants that? I say that all the time when it took to the point where I finally was given the answers that I wanted, which was, yes, we will go ahead and, approve for you to get a hysterectomy, because we have to get approval for that as women too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the whole process, it's just been so long that now that I'm in a position where I'm feeling better, I can't remember the last time I felt this great. And that's, it's a
That's
blessing, and I'm very happy about it, but it also fuels the fire a little bit, because it's just like, wow, it took this. This is what it took for me to get where I am.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you brought up so many good things. One, just having like you mentioned, a supportive partner. And some people don't have that. And some people aren't believed by their family and their partner. And it makes such a big difference to have that person and other people like advocating by your side. And I know for me personally, I remember my husband, who was a boyfriend at the time, was like this. He was the one that looked at me and saw me like on the floor every month and was like, dated other women and was like, this isn't normal. He's like, I've
Right.
never seen, he was the one that almost kind of like I knew that it was probably not normal, but I was told that this was normal and everybody was doing
Right.
this behind closed doors. So I just believed it. And he really helped advocate for me and was there every step of the way. And it's so important to have that person. It could be a parent, a sibling, a friend, but someone who really believes in you, because at some points, I don't know if you felt this way, but I kept being told it was normal, it was normal, it was normal. I was second guessing myself and thinking like, maybe I am dramatic. Like maybe I am over exaggerating this. Maybe I have a low tolerance to pain. I started asking myself those questions because I didn't see people like go dark for 3 days during their cycle in high
Right.
school like I did, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I felt that a lot of times, especially when it was getting to the point where it felt like a broken record. It's like, why are the why are you here today question just infuriated me more, because it's like, well, why do you think I'm here? Do you think I enjoy coming to the OB every 6 months because I'm still having a problem? Do you think I enjoy having to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on period products and pain medication, and just even, for me, I really struggled a lot with it when I was trying to get pregnant. That was probably one of the hardest times for me, because I've always wanted to have children. That was never really a question for me. But when right around the time I was about to turn like 27, we had pretty much, my OB at that time had said, at this point, we've exhausted all the options. We've tried different birth controls. We've gone in and burnt off the endo. We've tried experimental treatments. We've done all this. There's really not much more. And have you and your, at the time, again, boyfriend talked about when you thought you might want to have children? And, I was fine with it, but would I
Yeah.
have maybe liked to wait a little bit longer? Probably. I wanted to enjoy, we were getting ready to get married. It was probably about 3 months before our wedding. We're going to be getting married. I wanted to enjoy married life. But when you have this condition, shortens things, and it quickens your expectations of what maybe you would think, becoming a parent is. So we sat down and we talked about it. And I know that at first, my husband, Josh, he wasn't necessarily ready, but he knew if we don't start trying, this might not ever happen for us. And so it took almost 3.5 years for us to get pregnant. And even during the time of me being pregnant, the OB that I had been seeing for a while, I remember at one point we had tried a couple of different things, and I went in and I was like, I really want to have a baby. Like, it's not necessarily just about the relief. I want to do it, and I'm starting to feel like it's not going to happen. And she said to me, well, some people, it's just not in the cards for them. Some people aren't going to be able to, have a baby. And I was like, wow, you're the one that a year ago was suggesting this, and now you're wanting to throw in the towel, it feels like. And how did we get from, I really want to encourage you, I think that you might not have much longer, to where we are now? And for me, it felt like she didn't take me seriously. The woman that has been treating me and helping me doesn't think that I'm going to be able to get pregnant. And that right there, it's like, if that's going to be your attitude about it, why would I continue to be seen by you?
First off, and I want to go back to like what happened after the surgery, like what she did, but that's just honestly, I'm so enraged right now hearing that. Like, that is, she's also telling you misinformation. I know people in their 30s and 40s that were lucky enough with endo, with help, to be able to get pregnant, but to like force you into making a decision like that is,
Right.
it's just old myths.
Exactly. 2 weeks after that, I went to another OB because I was like, no, thank you. That's not, this isn't what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And the OB that I moved to, after my first appointment, they put me on hormone therapy and injections and all that. And we had one more round of IVF medicines before we were going to have to possibly start looking into other alternatives when I got pregnant. So it was like I found out I was pregnant on Sunday, and the following Friday was my appointment for us to start discussing adoption, surrogacy, all those kind of things. And so
It's a
I was
miracle.
thankful that, again, I advocated and I said, no, thank you. I don't believe what you're saying. I'm going to go find someone that does want to help me. You were quick to want to try all these experimental medicines on me, but now that you have to help me, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work.
Well, and to say to someone who really would like to have a child, regardless of the circumstances, they don't know if it's in the cards for you, is just, it's unacceptable. It's an unacceptable way to talk to someone. I would never say that to maybe someone I didn't even like, that was like, like,
Absolutely.
I mean, she's your doctor. She should be, let's do whatever we can to get you where you need to go, like
Right.
cheering for
Exactly.
you.
Yeah.
It's just very, very disappointing and disheartening to hear. So I do want to hear, before we go into, you said that you were able to get pregnant, which is so exciting, but after your surgery and they found the lesions, did she put you on like a continuous birth? What did they do after the surgery? And did you research endo and start to figure out like, wow, these were all of my symptoms. It all kind of makes sense. And oh, this is a chronic illness. Like, what happened after that first initial diagnosis?
So after the surgery, I was put on Depo-Provera, the shot,
Yeah.
which it works for some people. It doesn't work for others. It worked great for me. I was on Depo for about 5 years. And then right around the time that we decided that we were going to try and get pregnant, I got off of Depo. And it took about a year and a half for it to get out of my system, which for me, that was the only downfall with Depo. Otherwise, Depo was amazing for me. The 5 years after my surgery that I was on Depo, I hardly had any heavy periods. I would have breakthrough bleeding, but for the most part, periods were a non-factor. I wasn't having nearly as much pain, and all of my other symptoms kind of subsided during those 5 years. So Depo for me worked great. And
That's good feedback. Yeah, that's good to
yeah.
hear.
And I know that my mother had been on Depo for a really long time too, after having me and my brother. And she unfortunately had to stop taking it because it was messing with her bone density, which I know that's an issue with a lot of people.
Yeah.
I didn't have that problem, but I do know that from what I've read, usually after about 6 years, they kind of want you to stop taking
Yeah.
it. It just happened to be around the time when I wanted to start having a baby that it really worked out for me. But Depo was great for me. It really helped me a lot. Like I said, it took about a year and a half to get out of my system, and that was around the time that I moved to a different OB because the Depo was out of my system. I still wasn't ovulating. I still wasn't producing enough eggs. All of that was not happening. And so then when I had moved to my new OB, she had put me on the medication that essentially kick-started my periods again, which was great for trying to get pregnant, but for the
But
endometriosis factor for
yeah.
about 3 years, it was back to the pain, and trying to get pregnant on top of having pain was very hard for me and Josh. It was a really rough time because it's painful for me. It's painful for him to see the person that he cares for in pain, but knowing the reasoning behind it. At the end of the day, the only way to explain it is it sucks. It sucks that that's what we had to go through just to get pregnant and just to do what for some people is so easy to do, which kudos to them. I think it's wonderful when people don't have to experience the hardship of infertility and going to different doctors and all that. That's really great. I'm definitely not the type of person where I'm like, must be nice. I think for anyone, any woman trying to conceive or not conceive, or periods, not periods, all of it, it all is hard. So for me, I was just really thankful when I did get a OB that did really want it. It felt like she wanted it as much as I did. She wanted me to have a baby. She didn't want me to be defeated, so she helped me by getting to that point where I did finally get pregnant. And I stuck with her until I was about 6 months pregnant. And then right around the time I was 6 months pregnant, I have really bad allergies to not only like seasonal allergies, but like food allergies. And I kept having really bad allergic reactions when I was pregnant. I had to go to the emergency room twice. The first time they had to administer epinephrine because my tongue started swelling. And then 2 weeks later it happened again, and I had to give myself my EpiPen, and then my husband took me to the hospital. And after that, they were like, we gotta figure this out because you can't keep taking this much epinephrine when you're pregnant. A
Right.
high risk pregnancy at that, but on top of that, getting high doses of epi is not good for anyone, let alone someone that's carrying a
Pregnant.
child.
Yeah.
And I kept going in and saying, yeah, my allergies aren't getting better. And I remember at that time, the OB that I was at, they would have you meet with all the doctors while during your gestational period because they wanted you to be familiar with whoever might be on call when you do
Sure.
go into labor.
Sure. Right.
But they kept putting me with the same nurse practitioner. I don't even remember what her name was, but she, at one point, I was like, my hands are really swollen, my feet are swelling, and they're itching, and they said that I had arthritis. So I was like, no, I don't. And
Yeah. You're like in your 20s, right?
right, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't think that's it, girlfriend, but and so I actually ended up going back to my original OB, but again, I advocated and I said, I will see everyone except this particular doctor. I don't want to see her. I don't
Hmm.
want, we're not friends. I don't want her anywhere near me or this baby. And oddly enough, the night that I went into labor, she was the doctor on
On
call.
call? No way.
And oh, my husband just, I am a very extroverted person. I'm my father's daughter. I say what I think, and I sometimes don't think before I say it. And he's not like that. He's very quiet. He's very like sits in the back, and we got to the hospital, they got me settled in the room and all that. And a week prior to when I went into labor, I had started experiencing really bad stomach pains. Like they were just like I was, obviously I'm almost 9 months pregnant. I was
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But again, I knew my body and I knew there was something wrong. I was like, something is wrong. I'm having this pain. There's something off. Lo and behold, it finally got to the point where I had to go to see her. Well, I'll call her Dr. Evil because that's how it felt. Went to her, and I'm explaining to her I'm having these really bad stomach pains. I'm feeling really weak. Something's off. Again, just, well, you're at the end of your pregnancy. A lot of women feel this way. At the time, again, I had my son in September of 2020. So it's COVID, pandemic. I'm going to my appointments by myself because at that time your partners aren't allowed to go with you.
Right.
And I was working from home because my company had switched to remote work. And I was like, listen, do you think that I could possibly just go ahead and go ahead and start my maternity? I understand leave. I understand that I might have to go back sooner, all that. And she just was like, no, no, I can't approve that. And she just, I don't, and the thing was, prior to the whole getting pregnant and me and her, we got along great. She was really nice. I always enjoyed her. And I don't know what it was that changed. And frankly, I really don't care because, I don't see her
Right.
anymore. But,
Right.
I left that day, and sure enough, a week later, my water broke. And when my water broke, it's normal to have a little bit of like blood when your water breaks and stuff. But then I was having like lots of blood, tons of it coming out. My husband, he said, you were just standing in the hallway and it was just like pouring out of you. And he was like, I thought there was something wrong.
Yeah.
Lo and behold, once after my son was born, we found out that I had in my sac, there was a perforation, and he had been ingesting blood and a whole bunch of other stuff for a week, probably right around the time that my pain
Stomach
started.
pain. Yes.
Yeah. And so when he was born, he actually didn't cry. That's like one of the number one. He didn't. He made like a noise, but then they thought it might have just been like shock. But then when they got him over to the warmer, he wasn't responding the way he should have. And so they had to take him to the NICU, and he was in there for a couple hours because they actually ended up having to intubate him and suck it all out of his lungs and his stomach because he had been ingesting it for a week. And
Goodness.
I know, I'm really building this lady up. You definitely go to her. Just kidding.
Gosh. I mean, they could, I don't know, but couldn't they have done like when you went in that day, like do an ultrasound? Would they have been able to tell that? I wonder.
I asked, and she said that I could make an appointment with the maternal fetal medicine doctor.
And then
If
at
I
that
needed to
point, you're
get.
like already having the baby a week later.
Right, exactly. And
Wow.
that was a whole thing, but it was, again, going back to she was the doctor on call when I went in to labor. And, she was doing her rounds, going around checking in on everyone. And I told the nurse, as soon as I got settled in, I said, who's the doctor on call? Oh, it's doctor. And I said, I was like, I don't want her to come in my room. And Josh was like, Becky, it's fine. I'm like, no, I don't want her to come in my room. Please don't let her come in my room. And the nurse was like, okay, yeah, no, I got it. And before she could go over and say, she came in to check in on us. And when I tell you, Melissa, I laid in that bed and I looked at the window like this. I didn't look at her. I didn't address her. She came in and she's like, oh, I just wanted to come in and check and see how everything's doing. And Josh was like, we're great. We're fine. She's just resting. Josh is like trying to get her to leave. And she's like, okay. And she turns to leave. And I said, by the way, I wanted to let you know I got pregnant without your help. And she stopped, and then she just walked out. And thankfully, I didn't have Elliot until the next day, and there was a different doctor on call.
Thank
So
goodness. Oh my gosh. Good for you for saying something. Your husband was probably like, get this woman out of here. I've got a pregnant wife who might go off on her right now. I don't know what's going to happen.
He said when I saw her coming in my head, I was like, oh God. This is it. This is when it's gonna happen. And it's this. I'm not like that. I'm not just the type of but it was just, I didn't want her to be part of it.
Yeah.
I didn't want her to be part of my birth story. I didn't want her. She had already, in my opinion, taken so much away from me. I didn't want that. And then when we had him and we found all of that out, again, it just added to it. I am a big, anytime I see on like my community Facebook and people, they're like, recommendations for doctors at my OB that I go to. I'm like, anyone but her.
Yeah.
Anyone but her. And she knows. She knows. If I see her when I'm at the doctor, she always smiles at me and I smile back, but she knows.
Yeah. Yeah. She shouldn't have said some of those things to you. And thank goodness you delivered the next day. So it wasn't her. Thank
I I was
goodness.
I was like, he knew. Elliot knew. He's like, she wasn't nice to my mom. I'm not coming out today.
I'm holding on. I'm holding on. Okay,
Yeah.
so you have Elliot. What
hmm
happens next?
So I had him, and I wanted to breastfeed, so I did get back on a birth control, but it was one, of course, that had really low estrogen, because I was breastfeeding. And for the first 6 months, everything was good. And I was like, great, maybe they were right. Maybe I had him. Now everything's going to be, sunshine and daisies, and maybe it's not going to affect me. And right around when I stopped breastfeeding, it was like my endometriosis came back with a vengeance. It was just back to having 2 week long periods, having horrible pain, just anytime I felt like I moved.
Yeah.
And it just continuously kept getting worse and worse. And my OB at the time, she had retired since right after I had Elliot, she retired. So I got a new OB and she was great. And when I saw her for one of my post prenatal appointments, I told her I was having these problems again. And right away, she was like, I have looked through your chart. I don't want to continue seeing you because I know that I'm not going to be able to help you. And
Respect. I respect that.
absolute. And I told her that. I said, thank you so much because you might be one of the only doctors that has ever said to me, I know that I'm not going to be able to help you, but I want to help you find someone that will. And so she had given me a referral to meet with an endometriosis specialist that I did have to travel to go to, which was fine with me. I live in Stephen City, Virginia. It's a little bit of a smaller town right off of 81, which is a pretty big highway, but I had to travel into the city closer to Washington, D.C. to visit with this doctor. And after I got that referral and I went in and met with the endometriosis specialist, she right away was like, I'm going to order an MRI, I'm going to order this, I'm going to order that, and all of this testing that needed to be done. And prior to going in for my testing, I actually ended up having to go to the emergency room because I had been bleeding for 3 weeks, heavy bleeding. My pain was so bad that felt like I was going to pass out. And I had
Yeah.
been dealing with this for over 15 years. So I knew what a flare up felt like, but this was not a flare up. It was something different. And I ended up having to go to the emergency room. They had to do a ultrasound, a couple of other testing and all that. And when they did the ultrasound and they got back with the results, they had come into the room at the emergency room. And at the time, my mother was with me. And they came in and they were like, yeah, you have endometriosis, so that can cause these type of issues. But we're really concerned about your dizziness. They're like, we're really worried about that. And I'm like, you don't think it's maybe because I've been in pain and bleeding for 3 weeks? You don't think that could have anything to do with it? No, they thought I had vertigo. So I got a referral for physical therapy to help with my newfound vertigo, to add to the arthritis and all the
Oh my
other millions of
gosh.
things that I've been diagnosed throughout my life. But I think, and again, this is one of the points that I make to people throughout my whole time I was at the emergency room. I was there for probably 8 hours. Not once was I offered any pain medicine, nothing to relieve. When my mother asked them if I could get a heating pad, they brought me an extra warm blanket and told me to hold it on my stomach and that should help. Yeah, and that was it. I left with nothing. They didn't prescribe me with anything to help with my pain. They just said, you can take 3 Motrin. Just take 3 Motrin and that should help you with that. But again, we're really worried about this dizziness. They're like, this is really our concern. And I'm just like, I just want to go. If
Yeah.
you guys aren't gonna
Yeah.
help me, I want to go ahead and leave.
Yeah. You're like, this was just a waste of my 8 hours. And now you leave feeling almost worse about yourself because you're like, why did I even do that? Why did I even waste my time? But you were
Right.
in, probably like a level 10 moment. Yeah.
Yeah, and when they were taking my blood when I first got there, I passed out. And that's never happened to me before. I've never been getting blood taken and passed out, but Josh said, "Yeah, you were just sitting there and you were talking and then she started taking your blood and then you just leaned your head back and then they had to use the little wipe under my nose to wake me up and I had to use a wheelchair to get back to the room because I was so weak."
Yeah.
And all of that just for the at the end of for them to be like, yeah, just maybe take some extra Motrin. And they were like, and we see that you have an appointment with a specialist in Fairfax in a week, so I would just mention all this to her when you go.
So you were
I'm
like,
like,
thanks for literally nothing.
right,
Literally
will
nothing.
do. Thank you so much. I'll be sure to mention that with the vertigo that you've diagnosed me with.
I know the ER is, yeah,
And
they don't
it's
know anything about endo. They don't get it.
well, and I do understand. Not everyone can know. I get it. It's a very complex disease, a condition. I get it that everyone can't know. But I've heard of friends going to the ER because their back hurts and they'll give them something. Me, I'm like, can I get some, 600 milligram Tylenol? Anything would be
An
better than
IV, an IV medication, so you don't have to swallow it because you probably already were super nauseous because you were in such pain. I know. And
yes.
I don't want to say all ER. I have actually talked to some endo patients that had a great ER doctor that helped them get diagnosed. So
Yeah.
there are, like you said, they can't know everything. And I get that. But I do think they should have a basic knowledge. And if your pain level is that high, you should be given something to help alleviate the pain.
Right, 100%. And that's when I finally got in the car and left. I was like, well, had I known that, I would have just taken a couple of extra Motrins,
Yeah.
maybe taken a gummy and went to sleep. Like what
And
are we doing here?
you would have had your own heating pad. You didn't even have your heating
Exactly.
pad. Like, yeah.
And I
Honestly,
wouldn't have
I
a
stopped.
$4,300 hospital bill that I now have to pay for them to tell me what
Yes.
I already knew.
And people have heard me say this on the podcast before. I stopped at some point going to the ER because I was having those types of experiences. Even though like a couple years ago I did go because I had such a bad pain under my rib. I was like, oh, this has to be my gallbladder. Guess what? It was nothing.
Nope. Right.
I was fine. But I stopped going and I started going to, at least here in Michigan, I think they're more prevalent in other places, but I started going to like those IV centers like that people go to when they're hungover. And they
Yeah.
have a medication called Toradol, which I've had during one of my surgeries, which is a highly like powered anti-inflammatory, and they
Hmm.
can put it in your IV. And so I started to learn like, yeah, I'm going to pay $150 for this at the IV center. It's cheaper than going to the ER. Someone's going to help me within like 15 minutes. And I won't have to be made to feel like shit. They'll understand I'm in pain.
Right.
And they will take, and it helped. It didn't make the pain fully go away, but it would take the edge off in the moment. So I could at least like get some sort of food in my mouth.
Right, or just to give yourself that little bit of relief. For me, it was
Yeah.
just like, I need something because
Yes.
I feel it's horrible, the feeling that you have. And then, like you said, to feel like you go in and it's like, well, it is what it is. That is frustrating.
Yeah, you're
It's
being
so,
dramatic, you're being
yes,
emotional, it's not as
right,
bad as you think it is, like all of
right.
that. And it's not true. And
Calm
then,
down.
yeah.
It's got, I know it's hurting right now, but it is going to get better. And it's like, no, it's not.
And
It's
you
not
need to take the
actually.
edge off. Like when you're in
Right.
that like acute pain like that, it's very hard to get out. Like that's why pain
Hmm.
medication helps. It helps you like bring your whole like nervous system and body down. And yeah, I can't believe they didn't give you anything.
And
I mean,
then
I can.
at one point, they came in and they were like, we were just checking, how did that medicine help with the nausea that you were having? And I said, what medicine? I was like, I've been here for 7 hours. No one's given me anything. And they go, we put in an order for, I'm going to go check it. And I said, you don't need to worry about it because unless you guys are going to help me with the pain, I would like to be discharged.
Yeah, get me
I
out of
want to
here.
go.
Yep.
I said, I get it, the dizziness. If you need me to tell you I'm fine, I'll tell you I'm fine. If you'll just let me go home so I can
Yeah.
lay down in my comfortable bed with my heating pad and some water, because I keep asking you guys for water, and they're like, oh, yeah, we'll go get you. And it's like, the Dixie cup of water. I'm like,
Yeah.
gee, thanks.
I feel so hydrated.
I'm
Thanks so
so
much.
hydrated. Thank you so much. I must have just been dehydrated. I'm all better.
Of course, yes, of course. Of course, that's why you had the pain. It was just dehydration. I can't tell you how many times I went and they were like, it's a UTI. But then my test results would show it wasn't a UTI, but they would still be like, here's an antibiotic. I'm like, but the test results show I don't have but you probably just still have one. Like everything's a UTI.
Right. Right.
Everything's
Or
always a UTI.
mine was always, it's because I also at one point got diagnosed with IBS.
Yeah, me too. Of course.
And I'm like, okay, it could
Yep.
be just a flare up from that. And I'm like, I don't think so. But yeah, no, you're totally right. Thanks.
Thanks for trying. Thanks, guys. I know. I feel bad saying it, but it's, yeah. Unless it's like,
Honestly, you have to be comical about it because otherwise you'll cry.
you'll literally cry. Yes, for
I've
sure.
learned that I have to just laugh because if not, it will be a waterfall of tears.
Yes, yes. It's so true. It's so true. Well, okay, so all of this happens and you have this new endo specialist. What happens next with that person?
So after I got the MRI, they discovered that I was now at a stage 5 endometriosis and I also got diagnosed with adenomyosis. And that was why I was having such more significant pain and weakness. And they had seen that it was actually going into almost touching my bladder as well as it was touching my colon.
Yeah.
The endo was. So
Yeah.
after that, she said, we're gonna have to do a hysterectomy. We want to get it out. We're not gonna mess around anymore. It's been a long time coming, and finally here we are, and we're gonna get it done. So my surgery got scheduled, and I was shocked, and I even leading up to it, I see a psychiatrist once a week, and I had been speaking with her about it and for forever. And even her, she was just like, I know that this is probably not what you want to hear, but I have a good feeling. I have a good feeling that this is going to be. And even then, I still didn't believe it. I was like, something's going to happen. I was like, it's never been taken seriously. And I don't know if this is actually ever going to get taken care of. But then when I finally got the surgery scheduled, I can't even, elated and excited does not even begin to explain, which again is wild to me that anyone would think, why would someone be excited about getting a total hysterectomy? Who wants to get a hysterectomy? That's one of the things that I have always said.
Yeah.
Anytime the conversation has ever come up with a doctor, I'm like, do you think I want this? Do you think I want to become, infertile and feel like less of a woman? Because that's how it does feel. It feels like when in a society where forever it's been made to feel like women's main objective is to birth children and be mothers, once that's no longer an option anymore, sometimes it's fine. And for me, I was fine with it. I had been saying since I had Elliot, I don't want any more kids. I'm fine with one. Would I love to have more? Absolutely. But the pain that I have been experiencing all this time, it's not worth it to me to have another baby. And crazy that even has to be a thing. I've spoken to women that are not even remotely interested in having children, and it's still they're having PCOS or other problems, and doctors are like, well, we really want to wait. We want to wait to make sure that you're sure. And I'm like, why is that Why is that your business? Why is that, I just feel that I know that a lot of people say, oh, well, they have to be worried about, later down the road if you change your mind. I mean, I'm sorry if someone was going to do that, go to a doctor and be like, you gave me a hysterectomy and now I want kids, it's your fault. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that that's it. I think if someone is telling you, I'm in pain, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't want to have to experience this, why is that not enough?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a big decision, but I also think you shouldn't be denied the decision. It's our bodies. And it's a very
Absolutely.
hard, of course, we don't come to these decisions lightly either.
Right.
That is, and to be treated like you came to the decision like just willy nilly, it's a
Right.
huge decision to make. And
Exactly.
if you go in and say, yes, I'm ready to do this, then it should be respected.
Well, and if it, like in my situation, it's been years and years and years. I think by now I know that I'm good with the one kid. I want to move forward. Just provide me with some type of relief, because obviously I've exhausted all of these other options. I'm not deciding to do this because I want to. I'm doing it because I need it. I need this relief to not only be sane myself, but to be a good mother, to be a good wife, friend, daughter, granddaughter, to be the person that I should be. The pain that you experience with endometriosis, it doesn't allow you to be the full person that you could be. And I've always felt that way, but since having my hysterectomy in February, I feel so different now. It has provided me with such relief that now I do see how things could have been. Had I not had endometriosis, had I just had normal periods, I probably could have coped with it a little bit more than I was able to, but it takes a toll on your mental health, on your physical health. It affects your relationships. There's so many things that it takes into play when you have something that you don't have any control over. And the fact that even just saying, I want to have this surgery, that's the only option that you guys can provide me at this point, since there clearly isn't enough research to figure out other methods. This is where we're at. I hate that we're at this point, but here we are. And I was thankful when I did finally get a referral to someone that didn't question me. She knew. The proof was in the pudding. The proof was in the MRI results that this is something that has gone on far enough, and we have to try and provide some type of relief. And I keep wanting to say we have to try and end it, we have to try and fix it, but there is no fixing it. And that even, that adds to it, is it's like, even though I did finally get to the point that I'm at now, where it's like, okay, yes, I got the hysterectomy. They were able to go in. When they did have to perform the surgery, they did have to end up resecting part of my colon because it did grow onto my colon, which explains why I had the IBS diagnoses and all those kind of issues, which have also gotten better, thankfully. So after all of that, then in the back of my head, I'm like, well, it could come back. It's not just going to go away. And that's what they tell you. It's, yeah, it could come back because there isn't a cure for it, because there isn't anything that they can provide you with to even eliminate it. It's always going to be there. Thankfully for me, I was able to keep my ovaries, because then the next thing would have been going into early menopause, which I was already prepared that might have been a possibility. But I just think about like women that they're still dealing with it, and they're still having to advocate for themselves, even though it's been proven there's no cure for this. Essentially, they can provide relief, but it's never going to be fully gone. What is the deal? What more has to happen for women to be taken seriously, and for them to maybe think, okay, we probably should dedicate a little bit more time to this?
Yeah.
It's wild to me. I will never ever understand it.
It's about quality of life too, right? Like that's what you're talking about. Like, okay, we know there's not a cure, and hysterectomy helps some people, and you had adenomyosis. So I'm sure just like back pain and all of that, probably
Mm-hmm.
you felt immediately better, but there's no cure. And like you were saying, what has to happen. And it's research and people understanding and advocating. And I do feel that in the past couple of years, that has gotten a lot better, right? There is more awareness and people going to Capitol Hill and advocating for more treatment. But it is because I just feel like we're understudied and not understood, and our bodies are a little more complex. And I just think it's been something that was like swept under the rug for so many years that we don't even know why endo happened. We can't do anything until we know why do we get it? Why do we
Right.
have it? How do we stop it? Like they're like all of those questions have to be answered before we stop taking organs out of people.
Exactly. And the fact that something that does affect, 1 in 10 women, it's also crazy to me that something that is so impactful for so many people, still it's not seen as life threatening. And
But it can be life threatening.
absolutely.
There's like I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people, their lungs collapsed from
Mm-hmm.
endometriosis. I had a partial bowel obstruction that could have killed me if it wasn't discovered during surgery. Like
Mm-hmm.
I do think it has effects that can be life threatening. And not to mention the mental impact. I just get so
Yeah.
angry because, again, I do think we're in a better place, but there's just so much more that needs to be done.
There can always be more. And I think that for something that I've seen impact me, I've seen it impact my aunt has endometriosis. My mother went through never fully being diagnosed with something, but she had to deal with horrible periods. All these things that we as women have to deal with, and then thus far the solution is, oh, we'll just, give you a hysterectomy, burn it off, resect part of your colon, we'll do that, and then if it comes back, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It's like that's bananas. That's bananas that is where we're at. It definitely is not talked about enough. Like I said, it sometimes with some people it's even seen as like taboo, like, oh, we don't talk about menstrual cycles and women's periods and stuff. And it's like, but why? Newsflash, it's part of life.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I feel like if, men can go on TV and talk about their erectile dysfunction, why can't I talk about that I have endometriosis and I bleed a lot? It doesn't make sense to me, and it never will. And I am very thankful that I have a supportive community, whether it be my friends, my family. I have lots of people that offer me the support. I live in an area where I was able to meet with a specialist that took me seriously. I am in the position where I am able to get a surgery, and I have help from my husband that was thankfully has a good job and was able to stay home with me the 4 weeks that I was home and help me with taking care of my son. And I have family close by. All of those things do matter, and they do make the experience that I had to go through, it made it easier for me to jump the hurdles that I did, but it also has given me the voice that I have, and it has given me the platform to say, no, this isn't okay. It's not okay that this isn't talked about. It's not okay that people act like this isn't a big deal, because it is. Anything that is causing someone so much pain that they would elect to have body parts removed from them just to provide them with a little bit of relief, that on its own speaks volumes in comparison to other diseases. I mean it just because it's not necessarily something that every person has the most severe case of, it doesn't mean that it's not hurtful or harmful, or it doesn't impact you on so many different levels. And it's really hard explaining it to people that don't understand or have not had a family member with a chronic illness, or someone that has pain that essentially nothing provides relief to. And I
Yep.
mean, I
Debilitating. I
had,
call it debilitating
yes,
pain is like the
absolutely.
way to describe it. And just to jump off what you're talking about, I think constantly about the people who don't have access to care, that don't have access to any type of medical treatment for this. Like that's also unacceptable. This is a debilitating disease.
No, it is. And like you had said earlier, it's not just about the pain, it's about the mental toll that it takes on you, the effects that it has on your day to day life. I mean, when you're in the midst of a flare up and you're expected to be a worker, be a mother, be a wife, take your kid to soccer practice, go out to the grocery store, cook a meal, clean the house. You're expected to continue doing all these things in the midst of feeling like there's a burning knife stabbing into your stomach for no reason. It's wild to me. And anytime that I talk about it with people, one of the number one things that I always hear is, how did you deal with it for so long? And I had no other choice.
Correct.
I had to, because it is what it is. I tried to get help for it. I tried to get support. I tried to get all these things, but when something is so understood and there's such little research done on it, it's really hard for people to empathize and understand it, especially the medical field, unless you are someone that specializes in endometriosis or you're someone that specializes in PCOS and infertility and all the struggle that comes along with this disease, that you don't understand it and you are seen as dramatic and you don't have a high pain tolerance. And to that I say, a perfect example, after I had my surgery, they tell you this is going to be difficult. You need to get up and walk around no matter how painful it is. You have to, we're going to prescribe you with these narcotic drugs, all that. And maybe like the first 3 days I took them, and then I didn't need them anymore. I was up walking around the next day after my surgery. I was healing great, everything. And I was shocked. My husband and I were both like, what is going on here? Like, I'm doing remarkably well. And my mother had said to me, well, you've been dealing with pain for so long that surgery, having a hysterectomy, probably was nothing compared to what you've been feeling.
100%. And you probably felt some relief because I'm guessing they also did excision and excised the disease.
It's crazy to me that she said that to me, and I was just like, wow. That
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. I had
Yes.
been so used to being in pain that the pain of a surgery was nothing compared to what, like you said, if anything, I felt better.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that
That's wild. I know, it's wild. I am happy that starting like more recently, maybe past couple of years, they are like classifying the disease as a full body systematic inflammatory disease, because
mm-hmm,
it's not just about your cycle, or you can feel sick at any point. Or like you
mm-hmm,
said, you kept mentioning these flare ups. These flare ups aren't just cramps, they can be anytime on and off your
mm-hmm,
cycle. And it's like heaviness, grogginess, you're so tired, your brain doesn't work. Sometimes you can't eat. Like that's how it affects me. I'm in so much pain, but it could be pain down my leg. It's not just like, I think people for so long were just trying to be like, this is a period disease, don't talk about it. And that's not
right.
true. It's not, it's a
It's
whole
not.
body disease. Like it can
Mm-hmm.
affect any organ. It's been found on every organ in the body. Like, so, as you're saying, I kind of went on a tangent after you're talking about your surgery, but like, I'm just happy to see that at least that is also coming out, that it's an inflammatory condition that is a full body disease. And I think those terms will help us at least progress forward.
Absolutely. And I've heard of cases of people where they have endometriosis, but it's not even necessarily the period pains that they have that's the worst. They're having the pain in their back. And, for women like me that had it on their colon, the pressure and the movement hurts, everything. There would be days when I couldn't even get out of bed because just moving was hurting me. And that is seen as just, oh, just pop a couple Motrin and you'll be fine. Get up and
Yeah.
move around. Have you
Yeah.
tried drinking some extra water? Like all the things that you hear that
Do
people think.
yoga.
Yoga. Love yoga, but
I
yoga's
do too,
not gonna
but it's
fix
not,
it.
that's it.
It's not. And and when I was in school, I can remember when I would be having a flare up and it would be like I'd be in gym and I'm like, can I please just sit on the bleachers today? Please. And they're like, the exercise is good for you. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not good for
It's
my pants that I'm wearing. And I'm
do
gonna
you
be
want me to
bleeding
have
everywhere.
blood? Yeah, do you want blood down my pants? Because that's what's about to start happening. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, if you don't let me sit down, everyone's about to be uncomfortable. So it's either you and me are uncomfortable, or all of these 17-year-olds are going to be uncomfortable. You choose.
Oh my gosh. I know. I know. Look, like you said, we have to laugh so we don't cry, but it's so true. It's so true. And it's like, yeah, for the people who don't understand it. Oh, well, I'm so happy that you're feeling better now and that you've recovered, you're
Mm-hmm.
recovering from your surgery and for sharing everything with your story. I really do appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to add or tips or tricks or anything before we wrap up?
The biggest thing that has always been and always will be my number one goal is just to anyone out there that is experiencing irregular bleeding, pain, fatigue, all of the things that come along with it, just shouting at the mountaintops that you know your body and you know when something is wrong, and never stop advocating for yourself. I have I have younger cousins. My brother and his wife are expecting, and they're having a little girl. And I just think about when she gets older, that I hope from my experience and anyone that ever has to deal with something that is masked or made to feel like it doesn't matter, it does matter. And your voice matters. And anytime you have an opportunity to advocate for yourself or for anyone that you know of that is experiencing the issues that come along with endometriosis, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. And don't be afraid to spread awareness, because it is something that needs to be talked about. It is something that needs to be cured. And until it gets to the point where it is talked about more, I know for myself, I'm not going to stop talking about it. You're not going to stop talking about it, and no one should. Everyone should be advocating for themselves and for the people that are made to feel less than or made to feel like they're dramatic, because you're not dramatic. You feel the way that you feel, and if you know something is wrong, you tell someone. You talk about it. You talk to your parent about it, your aunt, someone at school, a nurse, your doctor. You continue to keep advocating for yourself, because at the end of the day, you have to do for you. No one else is going to do for you. You have to. And I'm thankful that I was raised by a single mother that taught me, you fight for yourself. And I will continue to fight for myself. And I am supported by father, my stepmother, my brother, anybody in my life. They know what I stand for, and that is important for everyone. It's important for your mental health, for your physical health. And I just hope that one day my story, my advocating, if it can even help one little girl to know that it's okay to not be okay and it's okay to advocate for yourself, that is going to be the best reward I could ever have. I would love one day to hear another generation be able to say that endometriosis is not a death sentence anymore. It is something that can be maintained and cured, and you can see beyond the, darkness that it comes with any type of inflammatory disease or any type of chronic pain. I just think that people need to listen and be more understanding that if something's not right and you know it's not right, it's okay to go to bat for yourself every single day. It's okay.
Yeah, very well said. Keep fighting until someone will listen. And if you're really sick and you don't feel like you have the energy to fight, then find someone to help fight for you. There's so many
Right.
endo warriors now. And with social media, that is such a great way to connect with other people and raise your hand and say, I need help. I can't do it right now. I don't have the energy, but can someone help me fight or advocate or find the right doctor to talk to? But yeah, I think your story will absolutely help so many people. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing and advocating for all of us, and just your passion behind that advocacy, and just being vulnerable and be willing to share, but also, helping us make light of some of it too. And, fighting back when we need to fight back, and laughing when we should laugh. So thank you, Rebecca, so much for coming on the show. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening, for supporting the show, for being here. Share this with someone maybe who needs to learn about endometriosis. That's the whole reason why this podcast began. I think sharing stories is the best way to learn, and everyone I've talked to has had a different kind of story and version of what's happened to them with this disease, which is why telling our stories is so important. So if this show helped you, please give us a 5-star review wherever you're listening. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next month.